She rides like an angel. She's my Model A Mabel.
Welcome to the Model A Mabel neighborhood, where you get yesterday's technology today. While Josh and I were out for a ride, we had the passenger wing. Okay, I won't be able to say that, so let's go with side wing. We had the passenger side wing come dangerously loose. The bottom set of screws were, well, not tight, but when trying to tighten them up, well, they were weak. They were held by 3 sheet metal screws. The idea of replacing the sheet metal screws with a larger screw wasn't an option, as the head enlarges as well, and the holes for the screws on the side wing assembly would not accommodate. It was time for a different solution. Now, I wanted a solution that was strong and that I could retighten if needed. I came up with a very good idea, I think, but my application of it was, well, less than stellar. In other words, I didn't quite fabricate my original idea. I will point out my mistakes as I go, but the principle of the idea worked. My plan was to take a piece of metal, drill and tap 3 holes into the exact specifications to the lower side wing piece. That way, I could put the metal piece to the inside of the door, insert the 1032 screws, and create not only a strong base to handle for the wind pounding and road bouncing, but I could retighten it if needed. And, well, I could replace the screws if needed without taking the inner door apart. I chose not to tackle taking the inner door panels out. Why? Well, I have no experience in this. Also, if I damage the interior integrity, then I have made a lot of trouble for myself. Why invite more grief into my life? Further, I could not get the screw off the door handle anyways, as the slot screw was severely damaged. There is meat on it for tightening, but it was stripped away for untightening. I tried clamp pliers, but there just wasn't enough exposed to get a good grip. My original intention was to remove this handle, as the decorative ring around the handle was placed too low to start with. However, unless I come up with some way to get that screw out, I just may have to live with Otto's inside door handles as they are. I have one idea to fix the misplaced metal ring, but until I learn more, I'm not sure how that will work. So, things here stay the same for the time being. During the fabrication, I made my first mistake. The metal I used turned out to be too brittle, and it could not be tapped. Instead of getting a quality metal, I just went with what I had and modified my original idea. Now, for the record, I sent everything to my brother David in Phoenix. He did the fabrication, which is why the dimensions turned out to be perfect. However, I got lazy. Instead of securing a good piece of metal that would accept a tap and sending that to him, I told him, well, just to continue with the metal pieces provided, as, well, I decided to JB weld 1032 nuts to the metal plates. Problem solved, I thought. This turned out to compound a second mistake. I did not rough up the surface. It had been years since I used JB Weld, and it always adhered with great strength. I think I will show you what happened to the weld now. Here I am putting the third and final screw in. Then suddenly, snap, the nut detached and began to spin.
That didn't sound good.
How I dealt with that I will show in time.
Let's take a look. Oh, I broke the nut off. Okay. Look at that.
Now let us return to the start of the installation sequence. Now remember, I wasn't going to take the upholstery panel out and remove the window. Thus, getting that metal piece inside and to align, well, that was a problem to solve. Here is the sequence I used to install the metal piece inside the door panel. First, I took the two top pieces of the door off to increase the space between the window and the door. Then I ran wires through the two outer holes into the door and up, using the window to guide the wires up. Then I threaded the wire through the fabricated piece, making sure the three-hole orientation was correct. Then I ran each wire through a nut. Now, note this. I initially used small rubber grommets instead of the nuts. This video shows those grommets, but those grommets were problematic in size, so I switched to 1032 nuts. However, this video showing the sequence and operation was better with the grommets. But, again, 1032 nuts were used. I threaded the nut with the wire going through the facing side of the nut. Then I wrapped it around and back through. This allowed me to pull the wires to the inside doors, positioning the fabricated metal, and hopefully aligning the holes. After that, I threaded the wire through the lower side wing holder. Finally, I tightened the loops together to prevent slippage and unthreading. Once this was in place, I pulled the two wires towards me, pushing the plate up against the inside door. The wires aligned the metal pieces such that I was able to screw in the first screw, the center screw. Now a quick note, I did not use slot head screws. I am using stainless steel Phillips screws, which wasn't around to my understanding in 1930. These side wings were available as an aftermarket item in 1930, but they probably used slot head screws. For the record, stainless steel screws were available, though not common, in 1930. Now, I could not find 1032 stainless steel slot head screws with a round head and a bevel below, so I decided to use these until I find stainless steel slot-headed screws to work with this side wing. Until then, it is what it is, as they say. And yes, I went to 3 different hardware stores and big boxes without success. I found these Phillips at the 4th shop. However, with this method I designed, I should be able to change them to slot heads without issue when the time comes. I brought out my inspection scope to verify that the screw was indeed threading into the nut. Well, it was. However, the inspection scope didn't have a memory card and, well, I was too lazy to put one in. I then pulled out one wire and began screwing in the next screw. Again, I checked with the inspection scope to see if I had successfully started threading the screw. It was threading as well. Now, that is 2 out of 3. I then removed the second or last wire. I tightened up somewhat the 2 screws to bring the metal plate up to the hole for the last screw. I then checked if the last screw had taken hold, and well, it did, but then I heard a snap.
That didn't sound good.
My concern was that the JB weld on the nut had broken loose. A look with the inspection scope revealed that it indeed had broken loose. Beans! Here is the inspection scope revealing that the nut had separated from the metal plate. This creates a problem. If I had used better metal stock and tapped that piece, this position I am in now would not have happened. At the time, I didn't have an idea on how to remove everything safely, so at that time, my focus was on how to tighten up that nut. And of course, due to using JB Weld, I didn't use any lock washers either, as that would have made the nut cockeyed to the screw. I had a screwdriver that was bent 90 degrees, so I went and got it. Trying to place the screwdriver tip onto the nut, hold it in place, screw the screw, and video such that the scope showed it on the camera, well, that was a chore. But after a bit of work, I was able to get it tightened down. Now, I never put side wings on, so I don't know how difficult it is. But the amount of movement, even with the added cloth strips, and there were at least 3 cloth strips on each end, the mirror still had a lot of movement. So I thought I would put in silicone rubber to help secure the side wing. Well, I have to admit, it seems much more stiff than I had expected, but then it may work out. At the moment, the side wings are secure. I will not touch the driver's side screws unless it too becomes weak. So, time will tell how robust and reliable this passenger side wing will hold. I'm going to end this video with video of Bert's Model A store in Englewood, Colorado. I had visited Bert's Model A store about a year ago, but never showed the footage. Let's sit back, put on some tuba skinny, and view Model A Ford Paradise.
With a man called Mr. Key, had a trip made, went to her knee, went to the river, couldn't get across, paid $5 for an old gray horse. The horse went home, swapped it for a bone. Oh, the good Lord, the boy was in. Won't you know that dress? Everybody